And welcome back to our lecture. So now we're at lecture 7, and today we're going to start this lecture with supply chain coordination. So take a brief recap from our lecture 6. Coordination can enable a firm to achieve both efficiency-driven and responsiveness-driven value. And we have both internal and external supply chain partners. For example, internally we have employees, workers, managers. You can say they are also our internal stakeholders. And externally, we have, for example, suppliers, vendors, distributors, and customers, and they are basically our external stakeholders as well. So, what are our coordination areas? So, in terms of our coordination areas, we depend on our choice of products and services. We're having information sharing, and we are also new product development, research and development, and decision making, which are included essentially between the supplier, manufacturer, and distributor. And moreover, in terms of the critical issues, we have quite a lot of problems in order to design our effective supply chain, which is pretty difficult. We firstly have to understand who has more knowledge, expertise, and experience. So we have a point, have systematic measure on who we follow, so we don't have a mess. So we can end up in a kind of a smooth system that is repeatable. This can be a bit difficult because sometimes the knowledge, expertise are not duplicative. Sometimes they can be wrong. Therefore, it's quite hard to ensure coordination to happen smoothly. Secondly, is how to measure the performance improvement. Measuring the performance improvement can help us to make new decisions in the future, to help us to know how to apply strategies from the past to today, and it also helps us to be able to, which lead to our next part, how to share the profit, how do we do the incentive alignment, how do we distribute our profits. So definitely, I mentioned before, sharing profits is essential. It is a way to motivate coordination to happen. Otherwise, coordination can hardly continue in the future. But however, it is definitely bit difficult to even share the profit. For example, because after you share the profit, you actually put in your cost. You are actually spending more money. But however, in many cases, it is the only way for coordination to happen. Otherwise, no one wants to, no participant in the supply chain wants to spend more time with you, because there's no point doing this. Well, they're not gaining much benefits. Moreover, how do we prevent the leakage? I mentioned before, it is a bit of contradiction because we have to share a bit of knowledge when we coordinate, but it is also hard to, because we don't want to leak certain proprietary information, but sometimes they go together. So my advice is to try to find a reliable partner, which is quite difficult in the market because everybody is quite, I would say, not selfish, but I know which business actually, every business must be selfish actually to survive. So you have to make sure you find a reliable partner is pretty difficult. And how to forge and develop sustainable relationship. So this is linked to how we share the profit, how we share the expertise, how we share the knowledge, how we're able to create a win-win situation that can benefit both parties. All parties in our supply chain are some considerations to take when we want to forge a sustainable relationship. Now let's talk about the main thing of this part 1 of our lecture 7. It is about bullwhip effect. We have to talk about what is bullwhip effect because it is something that happens in the inventory management thing, and it is pretty misleading. So I'm going to do some drawing to help you explain what is bullwhip effect. So bullwhip effect start off like this. Basically start off with this, like for example, when one customer orders, you can see here, and now things are getting a bit difficult. When this is up to the distributor stage, it will look like this. It will look something like this. So as you can see, for example, if the customer makes a certain amount of orders, the distributor usually stock more. They usually signal that I want more orders because they are preparing against uncertainty. That is okay, but how when distributors leading, when a manufacturer are looking this information from the distributor, they're preparing more inventories. It will be something like this. Now it is a bit dangerous. Okay, why are they stocking more? Because they believe that the distributor's amount is real. So when they look at the data, for example, they see distributor have 30 inventories, for example. Well, actually there is only 10 customers who order the product, but they saw the number was 30, so they believe that there's a high demand of ordering, and so they stock more. Maybe they stock 50. And now this is from the manufacturer stage, and now if we go to a supplier, that means manufacturer are going to order more from the supplier, and the supplier are going to hold even more, because the supplier saw the manufacturer, the amount coming from the manufacturer is actually the real amount needed, so they want to stock more for them to make profit. So it become like this. Okay guys, so this is about the bullwhip effect. So demonstration from my drawing. So as you can see, this effect is pretty damaging, it's pretty bad, right? Because it basically, this is one of the reasons why many businesses are overstocking excessive inventories to buffer uncertainties. Because the business believes that after they saw an order, because the business are taking misleading information. As you can see, the customer orders 10 products, distributor wants to stock more. That is okay, actually that is reasonable, plausible, and they stock maybe 30 products. But then the manufacturer believes that 30 is the number of customers' orders, so they may stock more, 50. And the supplier may look at the manufacturer and believe this is the real number, this is the number of orders, so they're stocking even more. Maybe 100 products in the end. So it's affecting every participant in the business, and no one is wrong, it is just people's perception. No one is wrong in terms of trying to cheat other participants, trying to mislead other participants. But the problem is, the wrong thing's problem is the misleading information process going on, the wrong information flow. There's always issue with information flow between supplier. The information flow is the problem that is caused that causes excessive inventory. So how can we solve this bullwhip effect? How can we ameliorate? How can we improve on this effect? The answer is we have to gather more accurate information. Because once we have this kind of effect, it's important for us to gather accurate information. If you look at the diagram here, okay. So let's now give a information. This is about information quality, because when we receive the wrong number of real orders, we tend to think this is the real number. So this is actually a decrease of information quality. We are kind of misunderstanding the whole thing. So, what is the reason? As physical and psychological distance between information source and a decision point increases, and as the number of gatekeepers between information source and decision point increases. So this actually causes why we have this bullwhip effect, that we have a kind of a wavy inventory stocking phenomenon. Because when we are stocking, when we are getting information from the previous party, there's physical and psychological distance. Psychological distance means sometimes it can be misleading, sometimes we are not communicating well. Physical distance is actually the distance that disables us to communicate effectively. For example, when one factory is in Africa and now I'm doing business in Europe, I don't get the accurate data, maybe, or someone forecasts the data wrongly, so psychologically we'll want to prepare wrong. Who is wrong in terms of psychological distance? I would say who is talking more is always the wrong person. Because when you are psychologically when you have the psychological inventory effect, what it means is you always want to stock more product than what is actually ordered, because you want to buffer against uncertainty. This is okay theoretically, because in theory, the reason for overstocking is actually the reason for holding inventory from the book definition is to buffer uncertainty. Because maybe demand will increase, who knows? This is not wrong, but after you have this psychological effect, you tend to stock too much, you tend to stock excessively, then you're going to fail. So you have to make sure you decrease psychological inclination, and you are try to be able to I would say you should try to be able to psychologically be more prepared and take more control in order to resolve this bullwhip effect. Physically, what you can solve is to find more reliable partners and find closely related partners. So because sometimes the reason may not be psychologically people are we have this kind of trend. It's not only because of psychology, it can also be because of the distance. If there's one order here and distributor receives the information from the customer 5 days later, then the information is not accurate. So maybe distributor believe I need to stock more. Therefore, you should find partners that are more closely together. Hopefully, can be closer to you geographically in terms of configuration. Your partner to be closer to you, that's way more better. Okay, so I hope you understand this. I'll take this video away because voice and image doesn't match. It's too misleading. It's a not match. Okay. So now we look at another diagram. It is called the information qualities cascading effect throughout the supply chain. So I will do some graphing for you. When we are stocking our products, when we're deciding our inventory, we always have a magnitude of fluctuation and time to stability. So in the first case, it can be that. In the second case, it can be something like this. Now we have things like this. And our old black line now is longer. It's much longer. Why is this happening? This is happening because we're now kind of I would say we are having more fluctuations in the market. So while we know maybe the customer order this amount of product tend to fluctuate, we want to stock more, and there's more uncertainty. So our time to stability will increase as well. And what happens to the manufacture stage, it'll get worse. It'll be something like this. So there will be higher magnitude of fluctuation compared to the first one. But the fluctuations not required. The reason for this fluctuation here is to buffer against uncertainty, and they believe, not from here, then they didn't see result from here, they see from here. So they believe this is the real order. They believe this is a real market amount. They believe this is a real one. So they trust this. So what happened now is even worse. Now we have more fluctuations. Actually, we have more risk here. We are storing too much inventory. We now have. When it passes to supplier side, this is worse. So supplier will be greatly harmed in this process, because they are the one who are actually stocking the most. If the bullwhip effect actually takes effect, if this thing actually works, they are going to be the most disadvantaged group. They're going to be the highest affected group. So if you are working as a supplier, if you are a manager of a supplier company, which many of them are successful in the market, you have to be careful of the bullwhip effect. Try to gather real data. Try to not be misled from market information. Try to improve your information quality. Find close partners, reliable partners. Gather accurate information, and in the end, always try to always try to keep in mind of this effect you learned today. So you always be more cautious when you're deciding on your inventory. Okay, so this is a more graphical explanation on the bullwhip effect. Okay, moving on. In our next part, we'll be discussing about vendor managed inventory, which is also can be a little bit hard to understand, but it should be fine for you guys. And I'll be talking about vendor managed inventory, which is a way to increase quality, sales, and boost possible win-win situation. I'll be talking about that in our next video. Okay, so if you have any questions, please comment below, and I'll see you guys in our part 2 of our lecture 7. Stay tuned.